Don't forget to do an intro.
Doing the intro right now. We are live with Unsung Heroes of the Cloud, episode 4, with Mike Martin and Nils Franzens, two awesome cloud solution architects on the Azure team. And today we're going to be talking about logic apps. And Mike, I'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
Episode 4 already. Nils, can you believe it? It's going fast.
I actually can't believe it. It went by pretty fast, but it's been fun talking to you on a bi-weekly basis, Mike.
Yeah, we should maybe we should kick it up a little bit, right? Weekly. No, let's keep it up. Sorry,
but keeping you busy.
Oh yeah, life is very busy. I mean, I had a very busy week this week with Techorama. I mean, the one conference that I still run every year, and unfortunately, it's virtual still. But yeah, we had like 1,024 attendees.
1,024. Did you aim for 1,024, or was it?
No, sheer accident. It was sheer blame luck. No, really. We reached 1 kilo person. Really, we really did. So that was amazing. No, it was really good that there was still traction for online conferences. And of course, we had great content. I mean, we had some nice announcements yesterday by Bart de Smet, for instance. He did the Reactor Announcements, the thing that we did, that engine built together with us, and they donated to the .NET Foundation. Check it out, Reactor with a Q instead of a C. So Reactor. That's a framework for doing event sourcing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
You did mention event sourcing there. That sounds somewhat similar to our topic of today with logic apps.
Yeah, we kind of are based on events there, right? It's for me, why I picked this as an unsung hero is because a lot of people underestimate the value and the richness of the platform that you can actually use it for. There's so many things that you can use it for that you can easily just build automation and integrations without going the mile for building, like having to build code, right? And that's
before you go deeper, what is logic apps?
So logic apps is actually, I'm going to show you, logic apps is actually based upon web apps, and it builds connections between APIs and connectors. And it started off as a graphical way. You can even do that in code if you want to, but it's kind of harder. But you have a full Visual Studio extension for that. You can define XMLs and all these things. But it's actually based upon, and I'm going to show you if I get it, based upon web apps. So if I'm doing a Git AZ web app from PowerShell, also an unsung hero because everybody's using, all the cool kids are using AZCLI now, but I'm still a PowerShell fan. So, but as you can see here,
if you are sharing your screen, I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh, and then I think, yeah, okay, there we have it. Yeah. Okay, so let me just make this a little bit bigger and just do this again. CLS, here we go. So if I run a Git AZ web app, and I just do a select of the default hostname, the kind, and the resource group, you will actually see what happens behind the scene. Is that logic apps, just like functions, is nothing more of an extension built on top of the same infrastructure as web apps, as you can see here. So what I created here is, you see all my web apps that I'm running, and these are just plain web apps, just app. And this is an app in Linux with a container behind it. So this is a function. But here you can see it's a function app workflow app. So it uses the same underlying infrastructure as functions. Only for functions, you have the code interfacing part. And this is where you can actually benefit from, because it uses the same kind of triggers and connection properties. And you can leverage that in a graphical interface and start building your full integration workflow. And this is the coolness. And
so you mentioned functions there, Mike. When do I use a function and when do I use a logic app? What's the difference between both?
Okay, so if you have so functions, it's all about the coding part, right? So functions, everything that you don't have standard out of the box and with too many transformations that you think that are not manageable, or you need to call some funky .NET or PowerShell or whatever kind of modules, you use functions. It's a standard IT answer, right? It depends, right? But in this case, if you're coming from a full integration with on-premise and doing all this old school FTP integrations and moving files from one place to another and putting it in the processing engine and stuff, then Logic Apps becomes a little bit more useful, because there you can actually see and build up a little bit a kind of a BPM that you used to have, like in the old good old BizTalk days, which is still a product, which is still valid, but Logic Apps is more the replacement on that kind of part. Where functions is really, I have a single functionality, I want to just call that functionality, do a small transformation on it. It's very good for high volume. Logic Apps is only good for like cron jobs and full automation, where you have a state flow in there that you really want to like oversight. And we can even make it more complex, because there's the third party still going on, which is another service called EventGrid, which also does a similar thing, but it's for a different episode. But even Logic Apps can still be expanded with the functionalities of functions, because you can easily just use a Logic App to call a function app, for instance. So you can just integrate with them, and the only thing that you need to do is call the REST endpoint of the function app, and you can still integrate with those. So it kind of depends on the throughput that you want to have, what your trigger is, what your output is, what you want to build up on. So it kind of depends. But know that you typically use Logic Apps when you are having a really cron-based way of working, really having a integration-based engine that you have in mind, where you just want to have so many accesses and so many actions per day, per hour, or whatever. Where functions is very good for high throughput. If you have a service bus with a message queue in between, and you have functions picking that up, it just keeps on coming, right? So that's really, 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 really cool. Yeah. And today we have.
I would add, before you jump to your demo, is Logic Apps also has that full library of connectors.
It's huge.
Both the triggers and the inbound connectors, the outbound connectors. Like, once a record is created in Dynamics 365, pick up that record, transform it, store it in a SQL database, and then also put it in a SharePoint site. All of that can be done in Logic Apps automatically with a graphical editor. Whereas if you do that in a function, that's a whole lot of APIs and security tokens you got to deal with.
You can do it. I mean, but Logic Apps makes it simpler for you, because you can use managed identity to connect to those things, or you can just use your own identity, kind of. And then people go like, and what about Power Apps then? Power Apps is more on your personal side. Yeah, but it's more on your personal side, and it works. Yeah, and it's actually underneath it's the same engine, so don't worry about that. But as you can see, there's a lot of connectors that we have, and there's a lot of like standard connectors. There's premium connectors, which come with an extra price, of course, and you can even run a gateway where you can expose your APIs and just connect to those from the on-premise world. So that way you can easily integrate with your environment. So that makes it really, really useful for building, I cannot say lightweight, but light manageable integration streams. And this is actually the power behind it. And the beauty of it is we get great tools for those. I mean, first of all, we have, of course, the what we call the portal, where you did the previous session on. You have all the different kind of Logic Apps that you can take a look at, and you can make them as complex as you want. I mean, I have one here.
Could you zoom in a little, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Let me just add some value there. There you go. So this is, for instance, a Sentinel connected Logic App that does mitigation triggering, for instance, that can actually confirm an AAD risky user. And you have all these things, and you can build in, like, in a very graphical way, like for each loops, and you can easily just change these things. And just for fun, I created a Logic App which just does something really, really stupid. So if you have Yeah, but the stupid ones are actually the best ones. I have a logic. Oh, that wasn't the intent. I have a logic app here that can actually do. It will get all tweets from a certain kind of hashtag in this case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if these tweets are being sent out, I actually come on portal. The downside of waiting, I actually will push these tweets back inside of my team to show them, hey, we should be monitoring this. So for this could be social media monitoring, like for instance, let's say when Amazon goes down and the world is tweeting about it, Amazon is going down. We have those things, right? Actually, we do the same thing for Azure, by the way. If we're monitoring Azure, Twitter is actually a valid source of monitoring. But this one actually also immediately stores it into an archive, and I put it into a blob file. So that way I can actually take a look from it from that perspective, and I can just pick up the blobs afterwards. So if I can show you just really quickly, what I do is I do a search for a text of Unsung Heroes Azure. And for those who are paying attention on my Twitter feed, they saw a couple of tweets appearing.
I noticed.
So I do this 3 times a minute. Yeah, this is a good valid thing, but I can just change this with a different kind of time setting. So that's my trigger. And then I have a branch that I created here. And as you can see, I can just insert steps here. I can add actions here. I can add a new action here. And this is where all my triggers are coming from and all my different kind of operations that I can do. As you can see, I can connect to an FTP if you still have these old school integrations with ETL from FTP. But even service bus and all these things are connected, Office 365, and I can really go a long way with all these actions. And once you then started building those, you can actually then actually start fanning out. I mean, here I can actually say do another. I should be able to add a parallel branch, so I can do more branching. I can do functionalities like for each and all these things. So there's a lot of capabilities that you can do here. So if I now run this thing, there will be hopefully somebody who's tweeting, and you will see that
here you
it's
go.
now doing. Yeah, here we go. Matt is on. Matt is our backend engineer who's doing all the tweets for us. And as you can see, it's now running, and it runs successfully because now everything is green. So if I take a look at, I posted this thing in my team. So if I now take a look at my Teams channel, there should be, hopefully, a new. Here we go. Nils tweeted. You tweeted you also tweeted.
Yes, I also.
The next one. Okay, there you have it. So Nils tweeted. I have put the URL in here, and the cool thing is, and this is people. This is why it's important you do Swagger and you open API, because what actually Logic App does on basis of the connectors is it reads out the metadata that comes from the API. So this is where your open API specifications and your documentation comes from. So I can easily here just. Oh no, I need to go to the designer, of course. Yeah, this is the last thing. Here you go. I should have checked this before because I can actually see what's in the message. But if you take a look at the designer, you will actually see, there we go, that I posted this message based upon the metadata from that tweet. So this body is being sent through this part, and it just reads out the API endpoint and say, oh, this is the open API specification. I know these are the properties that are coming back from it. I can work with that. And all this data can then be collected, so I can just edit this thing, and it just can add here more dynamic. So if I now do tweets, so sometimes there's a refresh problem, but as you can see, it gives me all these things that I can just drag and drop in there. It makes it very easy to embody everything. So that way I can just create my entire flow. And you really can get like really complex things in here. Like there's here you can say I have functionalities for ratings. I can do user enrichment, and then for build inside of a part, I can just do branching again. So as you can see, it can get really, really complex and really, really deep level. Let me just zoom out a little bit on this thing because elsewhere I cannot show the full flow. But there's a lot of things that you can do in there and making it really, really complex. Yeah, this is really cool. This is being built as a demo environment for all the alerts that are being generated by Sentinel for a SOC, so for a Security Operations Center.
And so let me ask you this, Mike, is there, because this is now a graphical editor, and your tweet example seems perfect for something in a graphical editor. But what you're showing me now, this seems complex enough that I would want this to be checked into source control. Is there a way that we can have this as code and use CI/CD for this?
Yeah, you can actually do this. I mean, you actually can get the full code view also from here out. And even from within Visual Studio, we can actually, from Visual Studio Code and from Visual Studio, we can actually build up, and this became a little bit smaller. Maybe make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. We also have the my extensions for Visual Studio Code, which are actually integrating into the Azure extension. You can actually take a look at the logic apps here from here out too. You can see all the triggers, but you can also have the graphical interface here. So I can just close this one for a second and this one for a second. And you can even see the JSON that it creates to create that back. And we can even do deployment script from here out. We can put that in a full CI/CD with GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps, put some functionalities in here and just redeploy that same code over and over again. As you can see, Visual Studio Code also supports the graphical editing, but you can just easily make this and change these things, change the triggers, change the code. You can even inject some JSON functionality or some functionality in here that you can do. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can actually do. And now today you can actually run it like app services, but in an app service environment. So we call that an ISE. And for those who are doing PowerShell, again, it's not the ISE where you the integrated scripting editor, but it's integrated. What's it called again?
Integration service environment.
Yeah, integration service. I always keep forgetting the acronym. I just know that's not integrated scripting editor. And you can actually run those things now also on premise and run that against those things. So it makes it powerful enough to just push it away from Azure, doing things on other parts and like running it anywhere. And that makes it really, really a powerful and unsung hero, because again, not a lot of people see the value of this. And if you really want to do quick integrations, this is your way to go. I mean, this takes me like 2 minutes to create. So yeah, perfectly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think this is another really good example of one of the unsung heroes. And I hope that the listeners and the viewers took something away from this and are able to build their own logic apps from now on. And if you're interested, you saw the hashtag in Mike's demo. Feel free to tweet at us, and Mike will get a message on his Teams channel.
Oh yeah, I need to shut that off, because now everybody starts flooding my Teams channel probably. Darn it, Nils. No, it's a good idea. Keep those ideas coming. So hopefully this was interesting for everybody.
I hope
this was great. Thanks so much.
Okay. So, and we see each other again in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.